Dear students, in this module, we will discuss about approximate methods which are widely used in quantum mechanics. The first question which will arise in your mind is as to why do we need approximate methods in quantum mechanics? As you have already studied in the past, that we have used the postulates of quantum mechanics to solve Schrodinger equation exactly for certain systems such as particle in a one-dimensional box, linear harmonic oscillator, rigid rotator, and a chemical system, namely hydrogen atom. All these problems could be exactly solved and we could obtain the corresponding wave functions and energy through the solution of Schrodinger equation. But as we move to more complex systems, it's found that it's not possible to solve Schrodinger equation exactly. For example, in the case of helium atom, if you look at the Hamiltonian for the helium atom, you will notice that there is a term at the end of the Hamiltonian which is E square upon 4 pi epsilon 0 R12. This term accounts for inter-electronic repulsion in helium atom. And it is this term which makes it impossible to solve Schrodinger equation for helium atom. Hydrogen atom could be solved because there was no inter-electronic repulsion term there. There was only one electron in hydrogen atom. But in helium atom, there is one inter-electronic repulsion term. And as we move to the next, say, lithium atom, there will be more inter-electronic repulsion terms. So, as the complexity of the chemical system increases, the solution of the Schrodinger equation becomes very, very difficult. And because of these inter-electronic repulsion terms, impossible. So, for such chemical systems, how to obtain wave functions and energies through the solution of Schrodinger equation is a big problem. And therefore, for solving such systems, we use approximate methods in quantum mechanics. Now, there are two widely used approximate methods in quantum mechanics. One method is the perturbation theory. This is the method which we will be studying in this module. And other method is the method called variation method, which we will study in subsequent modules. So, now the question is, what's the difference between these two methods? And what are the salient features of perturbation theory? Now, how perturbation theory helps us in solving complex chemical systems? That's basically the next question. Here we will study the details about perturbation method, and you will appreciate the application of perturbation theory for studying complex chemical systems. We will not only identify the steps which are involved in studying a complex system quantum mechanically using perturbation theory, but we will also learn how to write Schrodinger equation for complex systems on the basis of perturbation theory. Perturbation theory describes a complex quantum system in terms of a simpler system for which the exact solution is already known. And there are basically two categories of perturbation theories. One is time independent perturbation theory, which was proposed by Erwin Schrödinger, and where the perturbation Hamiltonian is static. That means it has no time dependence. And the second is time dependent perturbation theory, which was proposed by Paul Dirac, and in this one studies the effect of time dependent perturbation on a time independent Hamiltonian, that's basically H0. Let's now discuss the basic perturbation theorem which governs the perturbation method. Consider a function fx, and suppose that this function is not an exact wave function like psi 0, psi 1 up to psi n, but then this function fx satisfies the same boundary conditions as psi 0, psi 1 up to psi n. If there is a function fx like that, then this function fx can be expressed as a linear combination of all these functions psi I in the form of this equation. Fx is equal to summation 0 to n a n psi n x. This is basically a principle. Now the question is, fx we have a function, psi n we have various functions, but then the question is how to find the value of the coefficients a n which will help us in determine the value of the arbitrary function fx. So we need to know how to calculate the values of these coefficients a n. To find the values of these coefficients, multiply this equation which we just talked about on both sides by psi m star and then integrate it within the boundary conditions. As I have already told you, both fx and all the functions psi 0 to psi n satisfy the same boundary conditions. Therefore, we are integrating them. So, by we integrate, we get this equation psi m star x fx d tau is equal to integral psi m star x summation n a n psi n x d tau. If we further simplify it, you can see this reduces to the next equation, which is just that we have taken summation a n outside and then we have one integral. Now if you look at this equation, you can very well see that three cases arise. Case 1 is if n is 0. If n is 0, then you will see that this integral psi m star x psi 0 x d tau, this becomes 0. Because you know these are a set of orthonormal wave functions. Therefore, this psi m and psi 0 will be orthogonal to each other and therefore their integral becomes 0. If we look at case second, you can see that if n is 1, again this integral becomes 0 because they are orthogonal to each other. And if we take the case third, in which n is equal to m, that means the integral reduces to psi m star x psi m x d tau, then this becomes normalized function and therefore this integral becomes equal to 1. So these are the three cases which arise in this case. And therefore now we can generalize it by saying that M and N states are orthogonal, and therefore this integral psi m star x psi n x d tau will be equal to 0 for all n not equal to m. And then we can say from our earlier equation that the summation of a n reduces to summation integral psi m star x fx d tau, and that is our equation which gives us the values of the various coefficients. So basically, perturbation theory tells us how an arbitrary function can be expressed as a linear sum of various functions which satisfy the same boundary condition, that means there is a set of functions, and how we can calculate the values of the coefficients which ultimately will help us in finding out the value of the arbitrary function. Now, after having studied perturbation theorem, which is the basis of perturbation method, now we will study details about time independent non-degenerate perturbation method. That's basically how we use this. Here we are dealing with a system which is non-degenerate. That means its ground state is non-degenerate. All energy levels are discrete, and therefore there is no degeneracy here. Now let's consider a system for which Schrodinger equation cannot be exactly solved. And suppose this equation is h cap psi is equal to E psi, where psi is the wave function of the system and E is the total energy of the system. Now this Hamiltonian h cap can be expressed as a sum of h0 cap plus lambda h1 cap. Here lambda is the perturbation parameter and the term lambda h1 cap is the first perturbation term. In general, the Hamiltonian, the wave function, and the total energy for any complex system can be expressed using Taylor series of expansion in the following way: h cap equals h0 cap plus lambda h1 cap, and if there is a second term, second order perturbation, it will be called lambda square h2 cap plus so on. Similarly, for the wave function psi, we will have psi 0 plus lambda psi 1 plus lambda square psi 2 plus so on. And similarly, for energy, the total energy of the system also can be expressed as a Taylor series of expansion as E0 plus lambda E1 plus lambda square E2 plus so on. Please notice that in these sets of equations, psi 0 is exactly solvable. That means this can be exactly obtained from the corresponding Hamiltonian H0 cap and giving the total energy E0. And therefore, we can say that these terms H0 cap, psi 0 and E0 represent unperturbed terms, while the remaining terms in each of these equations represent the correction terms which indicate the perturbation effect. Now we will discuss about first order perturbation theory. This theory will ultimately tell us how to calculate the first order corrections to the energy and to the wave function of the complex system under study. In order to derive the expressions for the first order correction to the wave function and to the energy, the Hamiltonian, the energy and the wave function for the complex system can be written in the following way. H cap is equal to H0 cap plus lambda H1 cap. Here lambda H1 cap basically represents the first order perturbation to the Hamiltonian. Psi is equal to psi 0 plus lambda psi 1. E is equal to E0 plus lambda E1. Here it is assumed that psi 0 and E0, they are the exact solutions of the corresponding wave equation H0 cap psi 0 is equal to E0 psi 0. If this equation is put in the main Schrodinger equation for the system, which is H cap psi is equal to E psi, then this equation 5 becomes correspondingly, as you can see here, H0 cap plus lambda H1 cap, then psi 0 plus lambda psi 1 equals E0 plus lambda E1, then multiplied by psi 0 plus lambda psi 1. This equation can be further rearranged where you can see that the first term on the left hand side and the first term on the right hand side of this equation 11, they cancel, because we have already seen that H0 cap psi 0 is equal to E0 into psi 0. So once these two cancel out, the corresponding equation becomes H0 psi 1 lambda plus H1 cap psi 0 lambda equals E0 psi 1 lambda plus E1 psi 0 lambda, gives us the corresponding equation 13, which is H0 cap minus E0 operating on psi 1 is equal to E1 minus H1 cap into psi 0. This is the first order perturbation theory equation. Using this equation, one can calculate both first order correction to the wave function as well as first order correction to the energy in the following way. Now, first of all, we will discuss how the first order correction to the energy can be calculated using equation 13. As we have already studied earlier, that the first order correction to the wave function, that is psi 1, can be considered to be a linear combination of the orthonormal set of functions psi n. That means psi 1 can be considered to be equal to the summation a n psi n. Now, if we substitute this equation, which we call to be the equation 14, into equation 13, which we derived earlier, then we get equation 15, which is H0 cap minus E0 operating on summation a n psi n equals E1 minus H1 cap multiplied by psi 0. If we multiply both sides of equation 15 by psi 0 star and then we integrate, we get equation 16, which on further rearrangement becomes summation a n integral psi 0 star H0 cap minus E0 in parentheses, then psi n d tau equals integral psi 0 star in parentheses we have E1 minus H1 cap parenthesis close psi 0 d tau. If we solve the left hand side of equation 17, we get correspondingly this becoming equal to summation a n integral psi 0 star H0 minus E0 parenthesis closed psi n d tau. Now, if we look at the various cases, for case 1, when n is equal to 0, this becomes equal to a0 integral psi 0 star, in parenthesis we have h0 cap minus e0 parenthesis closed psi 0 d tau. And if this equation is further solved using equation 9 which we used earlier, this becomes equal to 0. Then we came to the case 2nd, where n is equal to 1. In this case, if we again solve this, we can see that this left hand side becomes equal to again equal to 0. This is because of the fact that h cap is an Hermite operator and eigenfunctions psi of Hermitian operators are always orthogonal, and therefore this also becomes equal to 0. Now, equating left hand side to the right hand side of equation 17, we get 0 is equal to integral psi 0 star, in parenthesis we have E1 minus H1 cap parenthesis closed psi 0 d tau, and if we expand it and further simplify it, we get E1 is equal to psi 0 star H1 cap psi 0 d tau. Now, you can see this gives us the first order correction to the energy, and that is what we really wanted to have. And we can see that the first order correction to the energy is related to the ground state wave function psi 0 and also to first order perturbation to the Hamiltonian H1 cap. Once we have the first order correction to the energy, that is E1, therefore then the total energy of the system becomes E is equal to E0 plus E1, and E1 is, as we have seen just now, is integral psi 0 star H1 cap psi 0 d tau. That is what we have in equation 21. Now, here we will try to find out the first order correction to the wave function. That is basically psi 1, which we will try to find out. As you already know that if we are using equation 15, which we had earlier, we get the corresponding equation h0 cap minus E0 in parenthesis, then summation a n psi n is equal to E1 minus H1 cap psi 0. If we multiply both sides of this equation 15 by psi m star and then integrate, we get equation 22, and if we solve the left hand side of equation 22, this becomes equal to integral psi m star in parenthesis h0 cap minus E0 parenthesis closed summation a n psi n d tau. This equation on further simplification becomes summation a n in parenthesis integral psi m star h0 cap psi n d tau minus psi m star E0 psi n d tau. Here also various cases arise. Case 1, when n is equal to m. In this case, when n is equal to m, this equation becomes now summation a m, in parenthesis we have E m minus E0, and that is equation 23. And if we consider the case 2nd, when n is equal to 0, this equation reduces to, you can see very conveniently, this becomes ultimately equals to 0. And if we consider case 3rd, when n is equal to 1, then this side of the equation also becomes equal to 0. We get equation 24, which is left hand side is am into em minus E0 in parenthesis equals integral psi m star in parenthesis we have E1 minus H1 cap parenthesis closed psi 0 d tau. And then if we further simplify this equation, then we rearrange this equation, then this equation 25 becomes am is equal to, in the numerator we have integral psi m star h1 cap psi 0 d tau divided by, in the denominator we have E0 minus Em. That means here we are getting an expression for the corresponding coefficients Am. Now using these values of the coefficients, one can very easily find out the first order correction to the wave function. And the first order correction to the wave function can be obtained from this equation 26 by substituting it into equation 14, and then we get psi 1 equals summation m. In the numerator we have integral psi m star h1 cap psi 0 d tau psi n, and in the denominator we have E0 minus Em. So this is a very important equation, because this equation gives us the first order correction to the wave function. So you have seen now that in this first order perturbation theory, we have been able to derive the various equations. One equation we have derived which gives us first order correction to the energy, and second equation which we have derived that gives us the first order correction to the wave function. Using these two corrections, we can calculate the correspondingly total energy and total wave function of the system. And since that is ultimately the aim of the Schrodinger equation, because the objective of the Schrodinger equation is ultimately to solve it to get corresponding energy and the wave function. Therefore, in perturbation method, we have used perturbation theories to calculate wave function and the total energy using first order perturbation corrections. So in this module, let's summarize what we have learned. First thing which we have learnt is that for a multi-electron system, Schrodinger equation cannot be solved exactly, and that the main problem comes from interelectronic repulsion terms. Secondly, since Schrodinger equation cannot be solved exactly, therefore approximate methods are used to have a solution of the Schrodinger equation for these complex systems. There are various approximate methods used. Perturbation theory is one approximate method that solves the Schrodinger equation of the complex system by providing successive corrections to an unperturbed problem. In our problem here, we have used the first order correction to the perturbation. The basic assumption of the perturbation theory is that the perturbation terms are smaller than the unperturbed term, and that the perturbation theory describes a complex quantum system in terms of a simpler unperturbed system for which the exact solutions are known. That means we know the eigenvalues and the corresponding eigenstates. We have also seen that when we apply first order perturbation theory, the corresponding non-degenerate first order corrections are h cap is equal to h0 cap plus lambda h1 cap. Lambda h1 cap is the perturbation term of the Hamiltonian, then E is equal to, that means the total energy is equal to E0 plus psi 0 star H1 cap psi 0 d tau. The second term is the first order correction to the energy. And similarly, for the wave function, psi is equal to psi 0 plus summation m. In the numerator we have psi n star H1 cap psi 0 d tau psi n divided by E0 minus Em in the denominator, and this second term here represents the first order correction to the wave function. So dear students, you have seen in this module we have discussed about the perturbation method, and we have seen how time independent perturbation theory helps us in solving the complex chemical systems. Now, this is one of the methods. Now, the next question comes that whatsoever relations and equations we have derived in this module, how to apply those equations to different problems, and that comes the application part. So, in our next module, we will discuss about the applications of time independent perturbation theory, and we will be mainly focusing on two applications. One will be the application to a problem of particle in a one-dimensional box with slanted bottom. That is a very interesting problem. And secondly, we will take the next chemical system, the next to hydrogen atom, that is the helium atom, and we will see how the perturbation theory which we discussed today in this module can be applied to solve the problem of helium atom. So that will be ultimately form the basis of what we are going to cover in the next module. And later on, after that, we will discuss about the second approximate method about which I mentioned today, and that is the variation method. What is the basis of the variation method and how this method can be used to solve Schrodinger equation for various systems.